Welcome everyone to today's webcast, 5 Steps in Building an Effective APM Solution on Microsoft SharePoint. My name is Ben Chamberlain. I'm the Chief Product and Marketing Officer here at UMT360, and I'd like to welcome you to today's event. For those of you that are not familiar with UMT360, UMT360 are seen as leaders in enterprise portfolio management, helping organizations transform the way they manage all enterprise portfolios and investments, ultimately ensuring a better alignment between execution and strategy. A key differentiator for our enterprise portfolio management solution is we're the only enterprise portfolio management solution built on SharePoint and with seamless integration with Microsoft Project Server and Project Online, helping organizations get even more value from their Microsoft platform investment. We're also seen by Gartner as a visionary in their integrated IT portfolio analysis Magic Quadrant, a quadrant that assesses vendors in their ability to unify silo domains in IT, projects, applications, infrastructure, and ultimately better align IT investment decisions with business strategy. So before I jump into today's presentation, a few housekeeping announcements. We will be pausing at the end of today's session for a Q&A, so please use the Q&A manager window in GoToMeeting to post any questions. It's also a moderated call, so questions can be answered throughout by the moderator. So let's take a look at what the agenda looks like for today. It's kind of like a webcast in 2 parts. We're going to start with a little bit of theory, look at what are the key challenges addressed by application portfolio management, look at a couple of the barriers ultimately to building a continuous, a sustainable application portfolio management process within your organization, and then break down the 5 key steps to building an effective application portfolio management solution. Look at defining a scalable and flexible enterprise portfolio model and standardizing the application inventory, calculating deriving cost of ownership, looking at deriving key assessment metrics, and ultimately analyzing and recording lifecycle decisions and building roadmaps to bring effective change to the application portfolio. As I said, this presentation will be kind of 2 parts, because then we'll take a look at how the UMT360's enterprise portfolio management solution builds on SharePoint to build an effective application portfolio management solution. And then we'll end with Q&A. So let's jump in and look at some of the key challenges addressed by application portfolio management. In IT, certainly over the last few years, budgets have remained fairly flat, but demand for growth from the business still remains rampant as ever. If it's not worse, rising operational costs are really making things much worse for IT leaders, really strangling the ability for organizations to fund innovation to improve IT performance. So application portfolio management helps in identifying and rationalizing IT costs. Move on to the next slide here. Here's some metrics from one of the Gartner's IT key metrics reports. And first, on the left-hand side, the pie chart here breaks down across industry average of how IT budgets are spent, with 55% of the budget on average being dedicated to maintaining and running the infrastructure side of the house, 35% of the budget dedicated to managing the application portfolio and running the application portfolio, with 10% dedicated to ongoing IT management and overhead costs, costs of the CIO office, facility costs, and other such costs. So as we focus on application portfolio management, let's take a little look at the 35% from maintaining and evolving the application portfolio. Out of that 35%, around almost 50%, 46% of the total application spend is dedicated to running the application, so simply just maintaining the applications that are in-house. The stat that's always interesting to me is this 92% stat, with 92% of the application's cost of ownership, total cost of ownership, occurring after it's been implemented, which means there's a significant tail to the cost of an application. Often these costs are not accounted for in the initial business case to onboard a new IT asset such as an application. And I also threw in this maturity, APM maturity metric here from Gartner. As you may know, Gartner rates organizations at a 1 to 5 maturity level. And I said the average application portfolio management maturity level is around 1.37 out of a possible 5, which basically means possibly there's an application inventory that's been collated, but quite possibly it's stale and outdated. So let's move on to the next one. Often CIOs and IT leaders inherit a complex environment, an environment of applications and systems that have been purchased off the shelf, homegrown or custom built, or acquired through different mergers and acquisitions. Often this results in obsolete and redundant applications. So application portfolio management has the ability to help you to identify these redundant applications and make decisions in terms of what to do with them. Ultimately, our application portfolio should help to automate and streamline key business capabilities and processes that run our business. And poor application performance can impact the overall performance of these business capabilities. So being able to engage with the business to understand the performance of capabilities and ultimately modernize your application portfolio to improve the overall performance of these capabilities and offer a competitive advantage is another good reason for application portfolio management. I see this a lot in federal and state and local government, the ability to really identify aging or older systems and understand the potential impact that has on an aging workforce. If you have employees that with a certain skill set, let's say in Cobalt or similar, that are looking to retire, will you have even the internal skills to run the systems or applications in your portfolio? Application portfolio management, as we'll discuss, is really a business discipline, the discipline of really understanding applications as business investments and making decisions as such. A lot of information around applications is understood from their technical domain, descriptive data, etc. But we don't often look at them from a business perspective. So being able to analyze applications, understand their cost, ultimately their business value, their risk to the organization is another reason application portfolio management is deemed important. And last but by no means least, many organizations struggle to maintain and define roadmaps that show the transformation plan within IT, highlighting applications due for retirement, applications due to be enhanced, and more importantly, understanding the important cross-portfolio relationships that these changes will bring. So the ability to be able to manage and communicate multi-year transformation roadmaps is another area APM addresses. So we're going to make this an interactive session today, and 3 polls, and this is the first poll. And the first question we're going to ask here is which would you rate as the key challenge you're hoping to solve with APM? And as we publish these polls, because of the limitation of GoToMeeting, I had 6 options in the previous slide, but we've condensed these down into 5. So if you would rate which one you deem as the most important to your organization or the challenge that is really fueling the application portfolio management initiative in your organization, and we have rising operational costs, the ability to rationalize those costs to free up more funds for innovation, the ability to sort of consolidate and build an application portfolio, identify redundant systems, and make decisions. Ultimately looking to improve the performance of core business capabilities, and I also grouped into this the ability to understand the business metrics of application portfolios. So that's number 3. Not easy. Oh, that was number 4. Sorry, not easy to analyze applications from a business perspective. And then difficulty in maintaining multi-year roadmap. So pause for another 10 seconds or so, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I think we can shut down those polls. It's interesting, it's pretty much tied here. So rising operational costs of road funds for innovation, 22% voted it as the key driver. Redundancy, only 11%. Poor performance of impacting business capabilities, 22%, and about the same, 24% and 22% for the remaining. If I was a betting man, I probably would have placed most of my money on the operational costs and rationalizing costs to be the key driver. But very interesting to see that there's pretty much an even split across these 5 or so. So let's return to the slides. So we looked at some of the key challenges. Let's now look at the barriers to building a sustainable APM process. What I've seen many times is when APM is implemented in an organization, it seldom becomes a sustainable process, a process that becomes ingrained in your annual IT planning and budgeting. It's often a one-time event really used to rationalize the portfolio, either remove redundant applications or cut costs, and is done on a, let's say, a 3 to 4 year basis, but doesn't become a continuous ingrained process within our IT governance, our IT planning and budgeting. So sort of 4 primary reasons we see for application portfolio management not becoming a continuous process. The first really is the failure to understand or appreciate that application portfolio management is an integrated versus a siloed discipline. If we think about what an application is, by nature it is a collection of things, of software, hardware. It runs on infrastructure service. Projects are used to bring the application online or enhance the application. And as we discussed, ultimately these applications are supporting key business capabilities that run our business. So just to look at applications in a silo, simply build just a siloed inventory, is only giving us one small picture of what an application portfolio is. So being able to understand the synergies and cross-portfolio relationships between related portfolios is key. And this diagram is a sort of simplistic rendition of that and doesn't really bring in infrastructure into the equation. But here we see the importance, at least, of understanding the synergies between our application portfolio, our project portfolio management portfolio, and the portfolio of business capabilities. So the ability to be able to build and maintain an application catalog, look at techniques, which we'll discuss in more detail in a second, to analyze the application portfolio, and ultimately identify and finalize lifecycle decisions, decisions which are then rendered in multi-year portfolio roadmaps. Now, these decisions and roadmaps ultimately are executed through a PPM discipline, whether it's onboarding a new application, as I mentioned, whether it's enhancing or retiring or replacing an existing application, is dealt with through your PPM capabilities. So the synergies between PPM and APM are very important, and these are the 2 first portfolios we often see organizations bringing together. But of course, as mentioned, the ability also to understand which business capabilities or functions or processes our applications supporting, and be able to almost treat those capabilities as a portfolio in their own right too. So again, ability not to look at applications in a silo, see them as an integrated part of your overall IT governance, your overall IT portfolios is key. One of the next areas or barriers to building a sustainable process, quite honestly, is making the mistake of over-engineering the initial application inventory. Often when we look to standardize an application inventory, we over-engineer it, simply meaning we capture too much metadata that we don't necessarily need in the support of business lifecycle decisions for the application portfolio. One of the big dangers of over-engineering the initial application inventory is you just create a burden in maintaining that application inventory over time, or the data within that application inventory, meaning the next time you come to look at analyzing your application portfolio, you have to spend time refreshing and updating the metadata, most of which you're not going to use in actual decision making around the application portfolio. So rationalizing the information that you maintain in the application portfolio, really with a key focus on gathering the information you need to make better decisions on the application portfolio is key, and is a great help in making APM more of a sustainable process. Maybe this is a slightly self-serving barrier here, but really the ability to go beyond the use of inadequate and not fit-for-purpose tools. Now again, many organizations start by looking to consolidate and build a simple application inventory and look for tools today like Excel or SharePoint, like we'll look at. And these tools don't necessarily have the full capabilities you're going to need to really manage the applications across their whole life cycle, certainly integrate the different domains to automate data collection, and they're not fit for purpose. Even organizations using project and portfolio management tools and configuring them to manage an application portfolio, or enterprise architecture tools, or ITSM tools. Many of these lack the top-down portfolio management capabilities needed to treat applications as business investments and support multi-year business decisions. So selecting the right tools is certainly important, and in the latter part of today's presentation we'll take a look at taking a simple application inventory in a SharePoint list and building on that to build what I consider to be a world-class application inventory. Last but by no means least, obviously support within the organization for making application portfolio management a continuous process is critical. So defining the key roles and responsibility ultimately to ensure application APM success is critical. I'll just run through some of the roles you may want to consider including in your APM endeavors. The APM sponsor, for example, could be the CIO, could be a leading member of the enterprise architecture team. Ultimately, they're responsible for the entire application portfolio itself. The budget, performance, and time frame sort of actions they look to address is setting targets for rationalizing and optimizing the application portfolio, and really coordinating the teams around application portfolio management. Another important stakeholder, if not this is more of a committee, is the APM review committee. Now, the responsibility of the review committee really is a decision-making body. It's going to be chaired by the application or the APM sponsor and composed of IT and business representatives and key stakeholders within the application portfolio management process. So main actions you expect from this committee is agree to joint objectives and the scope and limitations of IT transformation, to validate and prioritize opportunities for rationalization and transformation across the portfolio. Of course, the application portfolio manager is a very important role. The main responsibility really is to manage the overall portfolio that they're responsible for and look at the overall health of that portfolio. This could be comprised of members of the enterprise architectural team or key representatives from different regions or functional aspects of IT. Really, the responsibilities include ensuring the quality of information within the portfolio and making sure the other participants involved in the process are maintaining information at the right time. And of course, helping with decisions around the application portfolio and presenting information back to the sponsor and the application review committee. Other participants, too many to list in this slide, really provide information related to the applications and their ongoing evaluation. Could include members of the infrastructure team, obviously members of IT finance team, enterprise architects, risk managers from risk management team, and so on. So 4 areas of really helping to, if you address those, you really will help to make application portfolio management more of a sustainable process. So drilling a little deeper on the third barrier there, the second poll for today. What tools are you currently using to maintain your APM inventory, to build and maintain your application portfolio inventory? So we'll open up the polls. So the options we have here are Excel, which we see used a lot. SharePoint, often it can be a combination of Excel and SharePoint. PPM solutions like Microsoft Project Server, PlanView, Clarity, and others. Other specific tools to different IT domains, enterprise architecture tools, ITSM tools, which are often used to consolidate the initial application inventory, tools like ServiceNow, for example, CMDB generally, or homegrown or custom solutions. Or you can also put none there if you don't currently have an application inventory of any shape or form. So again, we'll pause for another 10 seconds or so. Let's see if we get a better spread in terms of the votes this time. Okay, I think we can close down the polls. So interesting. So if we look at this, 30% is using Excel as the initial application inventory. Certainly see a lot of organizations using Excel, even if they're using SharePoint to actually store the application record, but using Excel to help derive scores and other metrics around that inventory, and certainly analyze the application portfolio. 25% using SharePoint, that we see a lot, obviously either through using SharePoint lists or SharePoint sites as a perfect way of building out that application inventory, at least for a starting point. 15% using mainstay PPM solutions. Many PPM solutions have evolved almost to refactor projects and be able to build out an application inventory. And only 6% on the call using other tools from other key IT domains like enterprise architecture, service management, etc. So obviously a lot of people here, based on the title, looking to see how to use SharePoint and other Microsoft technologies to go further with their application portfolio. And 25% were homegrown. So let's go back to the slides. So next we'll look at sort of 5 key steps in building an effective APM solution. Then we'll jump into the demonstration, see how this can be built out on top of SharePoint. And here you see those sort of 5 key steps. The ability, first and foremost, to be able to define a portfolio model and standardize information that's collected in that initial application inventory. Next, looking to capture cost of ownership information. Could be done top-down or even dynamically generated through the portfolio model that's defined. Again, we want to start to look at applications from more of a business perspective. So how do we go beyond the standard information that's collected in most application inventories to understand things like business fit and value, technical, operational risk, enterprise architectural alignment, and many others that we'll drill into. Then how do we pull all that information together to help analyze the application portfolio from multiple perspectives and ultimately better collaborate with key stakeholders to record transformation lifecycle decisions, when to enhance, retire, replace applications, and ultimately teeing those up within multi-year transformation roadmaps, and then effectively executing on those application portfolio on those transformation roadmaps, as you see here. So those are the 5 steps that we'll spend a little bit of time in. First, defining a portfolio model and standardizing the inventory. The ability to be able to define a scalable enterprise portfolio model is key, and scalable is kind of the optimal word here. You can start by just consolidating and building out your application inventory, but as we discussed before, ultimately application portfolio management is an integrated discipline. So you're going to want over time to start connecting your application portfolio to other related portfolios. For example, if you want to look at assessing redundancy in the application portfolio, step 1, you can look at simply mapping the applications against a core set of business capabilities or business functions. That may be as simple as a list attribute in the early stages of your APM initiative, but ultimately you can build out to define a full enterprise capability, business capability model, and start to manage those business capabilities as a separate but yet integrated portfolio and help inform IT investment decisions. The same way, if you're looking to derive cost of ownership, at some point you're going to want to start to aggregate the costs from key domains, projects, infrastructure, operational maintenance. It can be done so by integrating these other related portfolios into your model. When we look at transforming an application portfolio, the simple first step of integrating your application and IT project and program portfolios is a key step. So starting by defining what your enterprise portfolio model looks like and how you'll build on that over time. Next, let's look at standardizing the information maintained in your application inventory. I'm not going to go into all these sections, but these represent sort of the core sections you may want to look at maintaining. Ultimately, we want to be able to standardize how the applications are managed, to be able to define different governance workflows to control the application from the deployment into production, ultimately all the way through to its decommissioning or retirement. Let's look at also capturing basic descriptive data. It could be the name of the application, could be different names, vendor name, internal name, different AKAs for that the application is called across the organization, description and other information around the application. Who are the key stakeholders and owners? Who's ultimately the stakeholders, the owner, the application manager, and so forth involved with that application? What are the key dates and milestones we want to maintain when the application went live? Potential retirement dates, end of support life cycle, and other key dates around that application. Which vendor is responsible, assuming it was off-the-shelf application, which vendor is responsible for this application and other applications? What's the license information? How many licenses do we own? What licenses are being utilized? What technical information should we look at? Is this a hosted or cloud-based application? What databases it rely on? Other technologies and platforms that it requires? Segmentation criteria is key too. Could be as simple as just categorizing or grouping applications by different classifications. Could be reporting apps, finance apps, and so forth, which you're going to look at all in one go. Could be as sophisticated as overlaying pace layer methodology from Gartner, where we really look to segment applications, whether they're systems of innovation, differentiation, and record. You also may want to create different templates for different types of applications. Maybe you're going to capture different information for desktop apps versus true enterprise applications. Understanding the cross-portfolio relationships is key too. So the ability to understand what an application impacts other applications, projects, business capabilities is key. Establishing cost of ownership information, which we'll go a little bit deeper on in a second, is another important area, as well as deriving these assessment scores that ultimately are going to help us make better business decisions. So these are the core areas we may want to look at standardizing information around our application portfolio. Next, look at calculating cost of ownership information. Again, there's always a crawl, walk, run approach that can be taken here. So the decision is how to capture cost information first and foremost. You can start by simply capturing sort of top-down cost information for an application itself, and broken down by the key cost drivers, whether it's the one-time or project-related costs, ongoing operational maintenance costs, even direct infrastructure, IT service costs related to the application. But ultimately, over time, you're going to want to make this more dynamic by being able to integrate the project portfolio, the operations and maintenance activities, as well as direct infrastructure costs. You can start to make cost of ownership more dynamic and sort of aggregate costs through the model. So the cost of the project that brought the application online will dynamically aggregate against the application that it impacts, as well as the direct infrastructure costs and other maintenance operation costs associated with the application. With that transparency, you can start to get a better understanding in terms of the key cost drivers in the application, how much is being spent on project work and the different types of project work, and operational maintenance costs, as well as infrastructure costs. We'll take a look at that in the demonstration itself. So what are the key metrics that we can look to derive to assess the application? When we look at the demonstration, the ability to be able to define objective assessment schemas to be able to derive scores is important. We already talked about the importance of looking at cost of ownership, but the ability to be able to assess applications against key enterprise architectural standards to derive an enterprise architectural fit score is certainly important. Looking at risk from different perspectives, whether it's technical risk, operational risk, looking at techniques to ultimately understand the business criticality or business value of an application, as well as the operational performance. And there's just a few scores that you could consider bringing into your application inventory. Complexity and other scores are also relevant. But also the ability to be able to track these metrics and scores over time, snapshot and understand how they have changed through the life of the application. We'll take a look at how these scores can be used in the demonstration. Next, the ability to analyze and record lifecycle decisions. In the demonstration, we'll look at Gartner's methodology around time analysis. Basically, it's a technique used to help formalize and finalize lifecycle decisions, leveraging some of those assessment scores that you just saw here, business fit and value on the x-axis and risk on the y-axis, and being an inverted risk here, that high risk is actually a good thing and low risk is a bad thing, and time being an acronym where the applications fall in these four quadrants ultimately is going to suggest a life cycle decision. If it's the top left, which is a good risk and low business fit, you may tolerate that application. Top right may look to invest. Bottom right, migrate that application. And if it falls in the bottom left, ultimately may look to replace or retire that application. Again, we'll see this in the demonstration. Having looked to analyze the application portfolio and make life cycle decisions, being able to record those decisions and ultimately tee them up in portfolio roadmaps is certainly key. In this example, we see an application, CLM Analytics on the bottom. We see key decisions that have been made across its life, and we understand the cross-portfolio impact of those changes. Very easy to see which projects impacted that application. In turn, what will be the impact on other applications, even the overarching business capability that that application supports. So being able to dynamically build roadmaps is certainly important, but also being able to assess very quickly the cross-portfolio impact of any change is another key benefit. So with that in mind, I'm pretty much going to jump into the demonstration now. We're going to take a look at how UMT360 builds on SharePoint and actually Microsoft Project Server in this example to integrate an application portfolio management and project portfolio management discipline. We're going to spend 95% of the demo obviously looking at application portfolio management. So this is where many organizations start. I'm actually looking here at a simple application inventory being maintained in a SharePoint list. So here I have a list of all my applications and the metadata that's being maintained for those applications. So I've opened up one of the records here, CLM Analytics, which we'll look at throughout the demo today. Again, this is where many organizations start, simply by organizing the key metadata and metrics that they want to maintain for that application. And I'll just scroll down, you'll see the information that's being maintained here, whether it's vendor information, key dates, everything that we discussed. Now, but obviously we want to build on this core data set to introduce some of the other data records that I've mentioned. So what I'm going to do is actually move to UMT360, and you'll see how we can build on this initial foundation of this SharePoint list to start to extend that data set. So what I will do first and foremost is show you the enterprise portfolio model that has been defined, and then we'll drill down into the application inventory. So as I mentioned in the slide, the ability to be able to define both a flexible and scalable enterprise portfolio model is key. In this particular example, we're actually managing a portfolio of business capabilities, the key functions or processes that ultimately run our business. Each of these blocks here within this model represent a different portfolio, which we have standardized workflow for, standardized inventory for. So we're able to analyze those business capabilities and ultimately look at improvement opportunities the business needs to make, which are then transacted through multi-year programs. We can use business capabilities as a bridge ultimately between IT and the business. We're able to engage business on the changes we need to make to the core capabilities, but then have the traceability to understand which IT assets are ultimately impacting those capabilities. So we're going to spend the lion's share of today looking at the application portfolio, so an application inventory here, and traceability back to the core capabilities. And of course, we can see the interactivity with the IT projects too. So the ability to be able to specify what portfolios are included in your enterprise portfolio model and ultimately scale up that portfolio model over time is important. Now let's drill down into the application inventory itself. So we're moving away from that SharePoint view into this application portfolio center view, again, where you're able to group and view applications from multiple perspectives based on the data being maintained. I'm going to open up that same application record that we just looked at in the SharePoint list. And you'll see here now the additional information that is being presented within this application inventory. The first thing to notice is the ability to be able to define governance workflow to control the application throughout its life, from the initial request through maybe an enterprise architecture review, development, production, and ultimately the decommissioning end of life of that application. When we looked at that SharePoint list, it included important metadata that you see here being rendered within this view. Basic information concerning the application, stakeholder information, vendor information, key dates and milestones, as I mentioned, and other technical information, all the sort of core data set that we see important to being maintained. But again, this information was actually being rendered within the SharePoint list itself. But now we can go beyond that SharePoint list to understand other critical bits of information around the application portfolio. For example, we want to look at how functionally this application ties to other enterprise portfolios within our model. The ability to be able to associate this application, CLM Analytics, to the capability it's supporting, the business capability it's automating, the IT services it's consuming, the applications itself it interacts with and integrates with, the projects that have impacted it over time, the project that brought it online, enhancement projects, retirement projects, as well as being able to aggregate operational and maintenance costs against that application. The ability here to tie everything together through these enterprise associations and relationships is certainly key. And I'll come back to this application a little later and look at how we can then start to aggregate and standardize cost of ownership information too. We also talked about the ability to derive assessment scores, and we're going to look at some reporting and analytics in a second, which are leveraging these assessment scores. So the ability to be able to standardize surveys, look at things like business fit and value here, and be able to generate an overall business fit and value score based on these surveys, so weighted questions and responses that you see here. How many users the application have? Does the application meet your business needs or process needs, and so forth. So looking at it from a risk, a business fit perspective, a technical and operational risk perspective, so just simply another survey here, deriving an overall operational and technical risk score. This is actually leveraging some of the best practice methodology from Gartner's time analysis. So you see the questions here, as well as being able to standardize and generate an enterprise architectural fit score through this particular survey, where we're doing an impact assessment of the applications into the enterprise architectural standards. So again, you can standardize any scoring schema you want within the inventory. I'm going to come back to this application in a second and look at some of the other areas like cost of ownership and road mapping. So we've basically had the ability to go beyond the standard metadata captured in a SharePoint list to introduce other core data sets, associations, financial information, assessment metrics, as well as decisions and roadmaps that we'll look at in a second. So let's roll up now and look at how we can now start to visualize this information. So we'll go to some of the out-of-the-box APM application portfolio management views here. Could simply start by looking at top and worst performing apps within our portfolio. So here, leveraging the metrics within the inventory here, simply able to see applications from a cost of ownership perspective, business fit and value, risk, architectural fit, license utilization, and additional views if you choose to include them. But of course, through the interactivity of the Microsoft BI platform, the ability to be able to click on CLM Analytics here and see how it fares. It actually appears in 4 out of the 5 worst performing indexes here. So a lot of benefit in being able to leverage SharePoint, leverage the UMT360 and the Microsoft BI capabilities to bring your application portfolio inventory to life. Now, I'm actually going to generate another view here and look at the business capability dashboard. In this particular model that we've defined here, we had business capabilities, the core functions that our business runs upon, at the top of of our model. We haven't gone into how to build a business capability inventory, but basically at this highest level, what this is showing me is my core business capabilities and their business importance, and how we're spending the allocated budget in accordance to that importance. The way to read this is, if I look at procurement here, which is a relatively low-ranking from a business important perspective, we're over-investing in that particular capability. So we may want to drill down to learn more about why that is. So at this highest level, the thing you can do is look to standardize expense drivers across your application portfolio and other portfolios and aggregate financial information through that model. So what this represents here is the aggregation of costs against the business capability of procurement. So the ability to understand the project costs, which is represented here by application development, and the infrastructure and operational costs, the ongoing run costs associated to this. But from an application portfolio management perspective, we may want to see which applications ultimately are mapping to and automating the procurement capability. Normally when you're managing business capabilities, you're going to break them down to anywhere to 3 to 4 levels deep within your enterprise capability model. In this case, we're drilling down to level 2. So I'm able to actually now start to mine our portfolio model and look to understand which applications are supporting key capabilities within procurement. So I'm looking at procurement here and the overall cost for procurement. But these are the sub-capabilities, the level 2 capabilities that comprise procurement: strategic sourcing, e-procurement, catalog management. And it's very easy, based on the relationship model, how everything ties together, now to understand which applications are ultimately supporting strategic sourcing. So I clicked on strategic sourcing, a level 2 capability within procurement, and I can now see the applications coming from the inventory that ultimately are mapped to and automating strategic sourcing. And I can see key metrics coming from our application inventory. But as I mentioned, you may want to look at leveraging techniques from Gartner like time analysis, ultimately to help us evaluate applications and finalize lifecycle decisions. So in this case, I'm going to generate a time analysis view, like I showed you in the slides, drill down into just the applications that are supporting procurement. So in this case, I'm looking at my overall procurement capability, and I'm seeing all the applications within the bubble chart that ultimately are supporting automating procurement. And again, it's leveraging the metrics from the inventory. In this case, the technical and operational risk scores on the y-axis, and business fit and value assessment scores on the x-axis. Size of the bubble is cost, and the color is number of users. Now, just to reiterate how to read the time analysis view, it's an inverted risk. So a high number is actually good risk, a low number is bad risk, which is slightly confusing. Anyway, so as we showed in slides, applications that fall in this top left-hand quadrant normally receive a tolerate or maintain decision. In the top right, it's invest, I for invest. The bottom right, M for migrate, and if the application is falling in the bottom left quadrant, it's E for eliminate, so time being the acronym. So it's very easy to understand more information around any of the applications that are being presented in any of the quadrants here. So here we'll see that CLM analytics application we were looking at before is a low performer and is falling squarely within the eliminate quadrant. So being able to drill down now and take action is relatively easy. So return back now to the application inventory, again, that's extended that initial SharePoint list, and we're looking at the application status report, which again is bringing to life the information that's held in the repository. Whether it's looking at radar charts like this, the key assessment metrics that we derived, cost of ownership, risk, license utilization, architectural fit and business fit, and value as you saw. And again, the ability to snapshot and track these metrics over time is key. We'll spend a little bit more time on cost of ownership, but being able to understand what is driving the costs of this application is certainly important. Here we've simply broken down the cost by project costs, application development costs, the different types of projects being managed here, development, enhancement, retirement, and also the ongoing run costs, operational and maintenance costs, whether that's just maintenance activities and support costs associated with the applications or even the direct infrastructure costs. And again, being able to either have that dynamically aggregated through the model or maintained manually at the application level is a decision you can make. So in this case, we can understand a little bit more about the expense drivers for projects and infrastructure costs, as well as being able to drill down deeper to really understand the ongoing sort of financial performance of this application. When integrated with project and portfolio management systems like Microsoft Project Server, for example, getting a good picture of who's working and supporting each application, what types of resources you need, is also a value add. So just to spend a little bit more time on cost of ownership, as mentioned, the ability to be able to standardize the financial structure to delineate the core expense drivers for an application is key. In this particular example, we've broken out one-time costs as project costs. The project that brought the application online or into production is captured here. Any enhancement project costs, and ultimately the project that's ultimately going to be generated to retire this application. The cost of these projects will be captured here. They're considered one-time costs associated to the application. Then also the ability to be able to aggregate maintenance cost information against this application is also key, whether it's labor or ongoing things like software assurance or other software and hardware related costs associated to the application. And as mentioned, depending on the crawl, walk, run approach you take to APM, you may start by simply maintaining top-down cost information associated to the application within this view. But as you start to integrate portfolios, connect the project portfolio, connect maintenance activities potentially, as well as direct infrastructure costs, this information can be automatically aggregated across those other portfolios and brought into this view. So this is actually just a direct aggregation of the costs coming from the project portfolio, infrastructure portfolio, and maintenance bucket that we're tracking in accordance to this application. So look at the estimates, actual costs, and forecast costs can be maintained at the application level manually or automated through the portfolio integration. Now, ultimately we came down to this application to make a decision to retire the application. So the ability now to be able to record lifecycle decisions is certainly critical. Here I cheated and already done this, so I've come in here and created a retirement decision. Retire, give it a reason why, due to poor performance, put a roadmap date, even linked it to an initiative that's currently underway to retire this application. And this is all rendered now in the portfolio roadmap. So we start to see the importance of cross-portfolio relationships. First, the ability to tie everything together. This application impacts this project, this business capability. Next, the ability to aggregate financial information through the model. And now to look at the time-based impact of proposed changes. So again, we're looking at the CLM Analytics application, which is on the bottom bar here. We see the key decisions that have been made. Here's the decision to retire that application. And we can start to look across the portfolios, across the swim lanes to see the impact. For example, these are the projects that have impacted this application. This is the project that brought the app online. This is an enhancement project. This is a retirement project that's currently underway to retire this application. And we can see the impact cross portfolios. These are the other applications that this application integrates with. This is the application, this is the capability that ultimately CLM Analytics is helping to automate. And it's outside of today's presentation, but even drilling down into our IT service catalog to learn more about the services being consumed is also an option for you. So, as I've mentioned, everything is connected. So if I want to learn more about anything within the roadmap, you're one click away. The reason I show you this is to go back to the important synergies between APM and project portfolio management. So it's certainly a good thing to be able to build and maintain a roadmap, but next you need to successfully execute against that transformation roadmap. So actually now we're looking at the retirement project that is underway to retire this application. And for those of you familiar with Microsoft Project Server, you're actually now looking at a project being managed in Project Server with UMT360 seamlessly integrated within it. So you get a very familiar look and feel, whether you're managing your application portfolio in an extended version of SharePoint through UMT360, or start to transacting change and integrating your IT project and program portfolios back to those important IT assets. As I said, I was just going to introduce the importance of managing IT projects and connecting them back ultimately to your IT asset portfolio. That's as far as I'm going to get into PPM in this discussion. But we have our project here, we have all our metadata associated to the project. If I look at the associations between this project, we'll see that it's actually tying back to CLM Analytics, and that's how the cost of this project in this particular model is flowing back to CLM Analytics. But of course, a project can also impact multiple applications if you choose that to be the case. So we looked at the entity level roadmap, being able to, and this is where I'll end the demonstration, being able to roll up to the portfolio view and get a more holistic view of the portfolio roadmap is also a key benefit. Here we're simply seeing all the applications, which are the outer bars here in our portfolio, and projects that have impacted them over time. So you can see the color coding here for whether it's develop a new or onboard a new, enhance or retire an application. So if we go back to the app we've been looking at all day today, CLM Analytics, we'll see that their retirement project is already underway, and we can see when this app is going to be decommissioned within the portfolio. And of course, being able to filter these views to look from a different perspective is also possible. So I'm going to switch back to slides. We'll wrap up in the next 5 minutes. So as with anything, a phased approach to rolling out APM is certainly important, and we've shown it here in a kind of crawl, walk, run approach. What we've seen with many organizations is simply taking that next step, looking to first and foremost standardize that application inventory, look at maintaining that base metadata, and then maybe adding to that the business metrics that I showed you, some of those objective scoring mechanisms to assess the application from a business value point of view, an architectural fit, a technical and operational risk, even a cost of ownership if you choose to manage costs from a top-down perspective against each application at this stage. So simply being able to generate views to help you rationalize and score the portfolio from multiple perspectives is important, and could be the first step for many organizations. Next, we may want to look at integrating our project portfolios for two reasons. One, let's start to aggregate the sort of transformational costs against the application, start to build out that cost of ownership picture. But at the same time, through the initial analysis of the application portfolio and documentation of that transformation roadmap, now let's start to execute on that transformational roadmap through a tried and trusted PPM discipline. As we move into more of a fast walk, jog, and run, now let's look to really complete our integrated IT portfolio model, integrating infrastructure portfolios, potentially bringing into play business capability portfolios, so we have a complete dynamic blueprint of our operating fabric of our business, and how the IT environment and assets are ultimately supporting the capabilities that are key to that business, and also completing the picture from a cost of ownership perspective. Now we have project maintenance, infrastructure costs potentially being dynamically aggregated through the portfolio model at different levels, by application, by business capability, and so forth. So last poll before we move to the Q&A. Which best describes your current application portfolio management process or initiative? And the options we have here, we are managing our application portfolio or portfolios in a silo, which is a good thing. But we're just starting off with the application portfolio before trying to build that integrated picture. Next, we have started to integrate our portfolios, and we've started, like we see many customers, to integrate our application and project portfolios as a first step. Next, we've got the full enchilada, the ability to really bring together all our domains, application, project, infrastructure portfolios, potentially even the business capability portfolio, which we didn't have enough characters to bring the capabilities into this response. The last two, we are planning to start an APM initiative, or the last option is no plans at this stage to start an APM initiative. So we're managing applications in a silo. We've integrated our project and application portfolio. We've brought together all our key domains in IT, projects, infrastructure, applications. We're planning to start an APM initiative soon, or there are no plans at this stage. So let's give it another 5 seconds or so, and then we'll close the polls. Okay, so these polls published here. 38% we are managing our application portfolios in a silo. So if we cross-reference that, I think it was about 38% was also using SharePoint as a tool. We'll take a look at if there's a correlation between those two answers, because what I've hopefully shown you today is, if that is the case, how easy it is to take your application portfolio inventory to the next level. 14% have taken what I consider to be the next logical step, which is building on the application portfolio and connecting the IT projects to get greater visibility. 11% have brought together the 3 key domains, which is impressive. And 32% of you planning to start an APM initiative. And I hope you've got some value from this session, in at least looking at some of the building blocks and considerations in terms of what you may look to do, and a phased approach in terms of tackling application portfolio management. And 5% no plans at this stage to look at application portfolio management. Excellent. So I know we were running a little bit hot on time, but we'd like to end with a kind of action plan, and then we'll do the Q&A. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for attending today's session. As you think about application portfolio management in your organization, maybe in the next 7 days, assess how your company is currently managing applications or planning to manage application portfolios. Now, consider over the next 30 days or so to engage with UMT360, just from an educational perspective, maybe through an envisioning workshop, to see how UMT360 could help you in the different stages and phases of your application and ultimately integrated IT portfolio management journey. And over the next 60 to 90 days, we have proven best practices to help you quickly establish an application inventory and look to start rationalizing your portfolio. So consider doing a proof of concept to see how a tool like UMT360 could build on your SharePoint investment, and potentially even your Microsoft Project Server investment, to start to build more of an integrated APM capability within your organization.